All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Crew Show with a little 49er video. Well, camp doesn't start for a few weeks still, but according to the NFL Transaction Wire, the 49ers have made a transaction and they've requested an injury waiver on linebacker Mariano Sori-Marin. It's unknown what the injury was to the undrafted rookie, but the NFL teams have until Wednesday at 1 p.m. Pacific to claim the player. Sori-Marin is 6'2", about 240 pounds. He played college ball at University of Minnesota. Really smart guy who was recruited by a lot of the Ivy League schools, and appeared in 58 games, 40 starts during 5 years in college. He registered 274 tackles, 14 and a half for loss, 10 passes defense, 3 forced fumbles, 1.5 sacks, and an interception for the Golden Gophers in his career in college. In 2022, he started all 13 games, and he had 88 tackles, 6 tackles for loss, 3 passes defensed, and 1.5 sacks. And he was all Big Ten, third team honored. And, you know, you're talking about an interesting player who's very smart and a guy who definitely had some potential. But, you know, I don't know what his injury was, but he was going to have a hard time making this roster. It's funny, the linebacker position has really evolved in the NFL, and the Niners are kind of on the cutting edge of the changes that you see around the NFL when it comes to the linebacker position. And, you know, the one thing that stands out is it used to be where you had guys who ran 4.7, 4.8, 4.9, and were big, physical between the tackles, guys who would take on guards playing linebacker. Well, that position's changed now. And now teams are in the they've got 3 and 4 wides going all the time. They're in the sub package 75% of the snaps. So it's a passing game. It's all about passing now. And the 49ers are so deep at linebacker, and they're a little bit ahead of the rest of the league as far as transitioning from guys who are 240, 250 to the smaller linebacker who's oftentimes a converted safety or corner that has great coverage ability and can stand up in pass coverage against even the fastest of receivers. And it's gotten to a point where if you run, 4.6, 4.7, and you play to that speed, let's say on film, you're just going to get isolated in space against a really athletic weapon, a tight end, a wide receiver, a running back, and they're going to isolate you and make you play pass coverage. And you look at the 49ers at linebacker. I mean, look at they've got really speedy guys. Dre Greenlaw runs 4.5. Fred Warner was kind of a combination safety linebacker at BYU. Oren Burks is probably the one linebacker they have that's, closer to 240 pounds. The rest of these guys are smaller. Demetrius Flannigan-Fowles at University of Arizona was a safety. Curtis Robinson runs really well. He's played at Stanford, and he's another guy that runs in the high 4.5s. D. Winters ran 4.49 for TCU, and if you watched him in the national semi against Michigan, he really played that fast, shooting gaps and making plays in the backfield. Marcelino McCrary-Ball showed up at University of Indiana as a corner, and then wind up playing kind of a nickelback role in college for Indiana. And the 49ers transitioned him to linebacker. He showed up year one weighing about 215 pounds, had a nice interception in the preseason. And this year is, bulked up. He's closer to 220, maybe 225, but he's still very much a coverage type player. Jalen Graham from Purdue, the 7th round pick. Another guy, ran 4.64, which is a tad slow by NFL standards today. But when you watch the film, he plays fast, and he's got real smooth, very instinctive, knows where he's going. Pre-snap has a real good idea, is flowing towards the football at all times. And essentially he plays more like a 4.5 guy. And speed is not, crazy important at every position, but on that second level in the NFL at linebacker, it's at a premium. And the idea that you're going to have like a Matt Millen who's, 258 pounds and he's got the big neck roll and he's battling guards. That's linebacker play of yesteryear. Now you got to be fast. You got to be able to backpedal. You got to be able to mirror receivers up and down the field. You got to play pass coverage. And you got to be able to run. So I'm not saying that that's really why Mariano Sori-Marin was cut. He was cut because he's got an injury, but he was going to face long odds of making this roster. The Niners are most likely going to take 6 linebackers on their roster. It's going to be Dre Greenlaw and Fred Warner, probably Oren Burks, and then Marcelino McCrary-Ball, D. Winters, and Jalen Graham. And those 6 are probably going to make it. And then there'll be a hell of a battle between Curtis Robinson and Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles. Maybe one of them makes it. Maybe neither make it. I would say Flanagan-Fowles and Robinson and Oren Burks all are battling for maybe one linebacker spot. You could make an argument that the 49ers linebacking core is the deepest position on the entire football team. I mean, there really isn't anybody at linebacker that they have that can't run. And Mariano Sori-Marin, he didn't run a great 40 time, but he was a little bit more of an old school linebacker. 235, 245 in that range, a little stiffer, not quite the coverage player, more of a, like a middle backer type. And so he was going to struggle to make this team anyway. And now due to the injury, he gets waived before camp. And, it to me, when you look at the Niners linebacker, PFF ranked the Niners linebacking core the best in all of football. And if you look at the teams that have won the Super Bowl in the last few years, teams like Kansas City, you look at the Niners, they've been to 3 NFC championship games in the last 4 seasons. How are they doing this? How are the Chiefs doing this? They're doing this by putting an emphasis on speed at linebacker. The Chiefs have Willie Gay, who runs 4.45. They have Nick Bolton, he runs 4.4. I mean, these guys are 230 pounds, 240 pounds. Maybe a little bit lighter, but they run like the wind. And that's really the key. That's really the key to top tier linebacker play in 2023. You have to be able to run. You got to be able to play pass coverage. You really, if you think about the way the game used to be played with, the big bulky safeties of the 80s, you had guys like who really would hit you, right? Joey Browner, Ronnie Lott, David Fulcher. These guys all went 235. Ronnie wasn't quite that big. Ronnie was more like 210, but Fulcher was 235. Joey Browner was 220. Those guys in today's game would be linebackers. The game has changed, and you've seen the linebacker position change dramatically in a very short amount of time. So the Niners waive Sori-Marin mostly because of the injury, but I don't think he was going to make this team. And, if you looked at that linebacking core, what he lacks is that coverage ability and that speed that the rest of these guys all have. So interesting decision. Will they add another backer? Maybe if there's an injury. But the 49ers have tremendous speed at linebacker, and it's not a coincidence that Kansas City and the 49ers have been 2 of the more dominant teams in the NFL, and they both rely on an assortment of linebackers that run in and around 4.4 to 4.5. Speed is at a premium in the NFL. It always is, but it's even more at a premium at the linebacker position. All right, hope you enjoyed our video on Mariano Sori-Marin moving on from the 49ers as they decide to waive the rookie linebacker out of the University of Minnesota. Thanks to all of you for checking out the Krug Show. Thanks to our sponsor, Pig and a Pickle. Check them out. 2 locations. They're in Emeryville and in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week in Marin from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. They're open Wednesday through Sunday in Emeryville. Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. And thanks to all of you for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube.